You can really have a very productive week while only working just 1 hour a day.
Definition of freedom for people started shifting.
After COVID, huge demand for all the houses that have gardens and everything.
Oh, I'm free. I can go outside. I can do stuff. Hi, Petrus. How are you doing?
Hey, Vivien. Good to see you today. I'm doing super well and super happy to be on your show today.
Yeah, so for those who are joining us, this is Pierre, aka Petrus. Productivity is a former chronic procrastinator.
Yes.
A full mouth there. But turned into a productivity coach. He has more than a decade of experience to actually help people not just be productive, but be productive the right way, which is what is actually important. I've helped already more than 100 people on that. And to be honest, I'm really excited to having that podcast with him today, because what is freedom for someone that focuses on productivity? That's a great question. Hey, beautiful people, it's Vivien Roggero, and I want to thank you, and please thank yourself for being here. Before we go into this episode, I invite you to join this channel to hear more episodes that will help you create a more meaningful life full of freedom, purpose, and deep, true relationships. All I want you to do is click on the subscribe button. I love your support, and I can't wait to go on this journey of discovery with you. Thank you for subscribing. It means the world to me.
Okay, well, let's start immediately with that, if that's good for you. So when I think of freedom, I think so freedom is one of my most important value. Yeah, just to set it off straight, like immediately. This is why I chose to be a business owner. You know, it's usually the case because I didn't want to be deprived of my freedom as an employee. I wanted to live life on my terms. And so for me, freedom will be it's kind of an equation that includes 3 parts. There is time freedom, which is for me kind of the most important of all. This is why I'm so obsessed about productivity. There is location freedom, such as, for example, what we're doing here, being able to have incredible conversations and great insights with people through the power of the internet, no matter where we are. And then the third one is financial freedom, so that we can actually also have less stress, solve problems in our lives easier, thanks to using money as a tool for freedom. So yeah, those are for me like the 3 key components of freedom, basically.
Okay, so for you, productivity equal freedom because it equal time.
Yes.
Okay, but you were procrastinators. How did you build that freedom? Because, let's be honest, I have my time of procrastination. Let's be honest, like everyone.
For sure.
Like, everyone. I know you like to game, and I'm also a gamer. So, you're like,
nice.
I've like spent 2 hours gaming and like, damn, I lost 2 hours. I have work to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There is this guilt.
Yeah. We call it productivity guilt. There's a word for that. So, productivity not only helps you gain time freedom, but it can also help you gain the location freedom, and it can also help you gain the financial freedom. Because for me, my philosophy and my method of productivity, called the heroic productivity method, is about working smart, not working hard, playing hard, and being heroic. So what do I mean by that? So I'm against, those typical cliche, like grind hustle culture where they say you got to work 18 hours a day in order to make it and everything. Because in the end, that's not true. You can really have a very productive week while only working just 1 hour a day. It's totally possible, as long as this 1 hour is very focused on the most high leverage task that will really move the needle forward towards your goal. And so it's sometimes a hard concept to get around, especially when we are people like you and I, high achievers, ambitious, and we want to over deliver. But it is true though. So when you focus on those high leverage tasks, you can get, let's say for a business owner, time freedom, but also financial freedom, because suddenly you are taking the right actions that help you to grow your business, make you feel in a good financial position. And then location freedom. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, I've helped several of my productive heroes to, for example, quit their job or start a career as a remote worker, or, do this kind of freelancing jobs so that they can have this freedom that is important to them. Yeah.
Remote working, while it was mandatory for the world during COVID, I would not say it was the proper framework around it, because it was not really freedom. It was just you had to.
Forced. Yeah.
It was a kind of a forced situation.
Yeah.
And we see it. A lot of people didn't took it well. A lot of people had really bad experience about it. And some people took it really, really well. And now there is this drive from those people to say, hey, I like that. I want that back. I want to work that way. And I think, when we speak about freedom, and it's not even productivity. Productivity is one thing, but the mindset. I think there is a big evolution of mindset that,
True.
when we look at you and your clients.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, the COVID is such a good example. I remember, so I think, were you in Taiwan during COVID or
partially?
Partially.
So I was a mix of Indonesia, where I did my first lockdown, which was really drastic because you couldn't even go out of the apartment.
Wow.
And then I did a lot of back and forth to Taiwan, doing like 7 days quarantine, 14 days quarantine, 27 days quarantine. And then I moved definitely to Taiwan, which was the end of the quarantine period time, but still was tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. But then I definitely saw this shift where suddenly people had freedom found for themselves. They had more time because they had less obligations for work. And so like the funny thing that happened for like, I would say 90% of my friends is they started gardening. Everyone suddenly is into gardening. Everyone wants to have a little potager, start growing their vegetables at home. It's like, wow, this is interesting. Like that's very odd. But then after that, also I have a friend who works a successful real estate agent in Belgium, and then he told me, actually after COVID, huge demand for all the houses that have gardens and everything because of that. So it's like suddenly people realized what mattered to them, and then many of them also, launched maybe side projects or found the time to explore non-productive, relaxing activities, art, creativity, and things like that. That is true freedom. And that freedom definitely comes when you have the time available for you.
Yeah. So part of the people I've worked with, as a transformation coach, life transformation coach, specialize in freedom, because I created a framework around freedom. So, it's like, this is a big part of what I do. I've seen that a lot. Like the definition of freedom for people started shifting from during COVID. There was a lot of exposure to social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. That was a way to connect with the world. But then as things opened, there was a temporary shift that I've seen where people were less looking at that, more looking at, I'm free. I can go outside. I can do stuff. And there was like, I can garden also. I learned that. I can, take more time. I don't have to transit from home to work, because that takes maybe an hour, 2 hours a day. So like, we regain time. And then people at one point had this more of I want to do new things. I want to discover new things. But then, as we have seen the going back to the office, then these social media trends are also going up again, and then you have that. One of the first things that I said is, I have a ready framework, which is release. The first R is release, which is the most important part, because we are under the impression that freedom is what we see on social media. That remote working is a guy on the beach with a laptop. That
Sure, which doesn't work, by the way. Like, it's really not an efficient way of working. Send in electronics, not a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sure you have had that clients that come like, I want to be a remote worker. I want to live in Bali Beach and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah.
And then you're like,
yeah, because of social media. Yeah.
Thank you, social media. Thank you. It's the same with. So one of the previous episodes of the podcast, there was a friend of mine who is a relationship coach. And one part that we were discussing, and I don't remember if it's in the podcast or if it's like in the bloopers that we never released, but we were discussing about this Hollywood version of love. It's like the social media version. Social media is telling us a version of what remote working should look like, what successful look like. And then Hollywood is sending us this version of what love look like.
Love is
first sight, so easy, no work,
no arguments.
No arguments.
Yeah.
And every relationship expert and psychologist will tell you a couple that doesn't have an argument, it's not gonna last. It's not healthy.
Weird. Yeah.
And so I think, the first thing that we see with our clients together, both of us on different sides, is they have this thing that they've been sold to. But during COVID, there was this big shift. Was like, okay, we have been sold that, but right now we are locked down, so they can't do those pictures on the beach. They can't send us this plane pictures, this parties pictures, because we're all in lockdown. It was a big reset.
Yes. Yeah. For the world.
I don't know how you lived it on your side, especially, procrastinator in a lockdown mode. That doesn't help one another.
So luckily, I have to say, at that time, I already overcame my chronic procrastination. So it was good. Like, I really, you mentioned something earlier. It's like the guilt. Guilt is a very, very, very important part in causing procrastination, in being one of the cause of procrastination. And the beauty for me, at least in lockdown, is that therefore, because I'm in lockdown, therefore I don't have any guilt whatsoever, to play my games, to answer late messages or whatever, because like, what do you expect? I'm in lockdown or I'm in quarantine, that's the same thing. So, this was really good. And so for me, I just made sure to apply, all of my self-improvement knowledge. I had my positive habits that were there. I would still do my workouts, every morning in my place. I would do a bit of meditation. I would catch up with friends, doing video calls. I would read a lot, play video games.
As I said, when I was in Indonesia, we had the really hardcore lockdown. And we didn't know when it would stop. So it started and you didn't know when it would stop. And you couldn't go outside, couldn't go to the mall. You could basically go to your lobby to pick up your food. And the only people that were allowed to go to be outside were basically the driver that will bring the food to the people, like the Gojek in Indonesia, the equivalent of Uber Eats. And so that was nearly all. Like, you could not go outside of your apartment. So you had to have a big apartment if you but imagine if you have a studio for
with a lot of people.
3 months. 3 months. And I think, as you said, that that's a big difference is freedom. We all have a different definition of it. We all have what freedom is for us. And it is beautiful because it's different. But there is one thing that is common to all the people, and I think that you express it the right way, is you do not want to be deprived of freedom. Whatever freedom is for you, you do not want to be deprived of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, you came from Belgium. Let's go into the nitty-gritty detail of that. You came from Belgium. You're now in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. For those who don't know, Kaohsiung, south of Taiwan, really beautiful weather, really beautiful city.
Right.
What was that transition? Because that's also part of your freedom path.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll make a very interesting analogy that I'm pretty sure you've never heard of before, but you'll be interested because you mentioned you're a gamer. I've realized, this is so interesting, that the games that someone play and the way this person play the games reveals a lot about what are their interests in lives. So, for example, when I was a teenager, I loved so much playing MMORPGs. So online role-playing games where it's always like open world, where you have total freedom. Again, you can travel everywhere you want. You can discover new places. You can meet a lot of new people. And then guess what? Living abroad and traveling became a super important part of my life in the real world, which is kind of the same, it's like exploring new maps, discovering new countries, getting to know new cultures, meeting new people. And so basically, once I understood that, I felt so happy whenever I was in totally outside of my comfort zone. I had this cultural slap in my face, being in Asia, coming from Europe. I really realized that, okay, this is where I'm thriving, and I'm really enjoying that. And so when I used to work a little bit in China before. First, I came to China as a scholarship student for learning Chinese. Then eventually I had some working experience in China. And then I discovered Taiwan as an exchange student. And I eventually decided to stay here. I started first business that was alcohol importing company because, Belgians make very good beers. And then eventually I shifted about 5 years ago to full-time productivity coaching. And I stayed here because there is a lot of freedom in this place. It's unlike, the big neighbor. This is a democratic country. We have also more financial freedom because the cost of life is cheaper compared to Europe, let's say. And eventually, like, this is for me, like, the lifestyle that I'm having allows me to have a lot of freedom because I work online now. I make sure, even if my neighbor, who is physically my neighbor, would ask me to coach him, I'll say, all right, well, log in onto your computer because everything is online. And I just set the expectations. I just do it more efficiently this way.
I've seen, like, I was working in one of the company and there was this kid that took his mother's credit card and spent $3,000 in 1 month. Without the mother knowing.
Yeah.
And so, it's also depriving you of that freedom. And that's Absolutely. What I didn't want it to do. The games are, if they are done well and played in the right way, like, I take some time, I play, I refresh my mind with a game.
Correct.
That's great.
Yeah.
But if they are done to take your freedom away, and financial freedom and time freedom,
Absolutely. I think, I want to make a cool transition on that. So I had also a complex relationship with gaming due to procrastination and productivity. So I used to have massive productivity guilt as well whenever I would play games. So what did I do? Whenever I came to Taiwan, I decided I make this conscious effort of not taking any gaming device with me. So I would leave my console in Belgium and I would not buy a gaming computer. I would just buy a simple computer for internet, just for work. So that was my very powerful hack for minimizing friction and making sure that I really do not fall into the gaming again. So I was really here being pretty strict on myself. And so, sure, it worked. I didn't play games and everything. But then there were still massive moments where I would procrastinate and I would find any kind of activities to do besides the thing that I wanted to do. Because that's the thing. Procrastination is it's just simply doing anything else besides the thing you're supposed to do. So, for example, one of the lesser known form of procrastination that I used to be an expert at is planning. I would plan for hours and hours and days and weeks sometimes, thinking I'm productive, thinking I'm doing the right thing. Actually, I was just lying to myself. It was still procrastination in disguise. But coming back to gaming, I remember once I had a dream. I was sleeping and I had this dream that I was playing again one of those, MMORPGs, and I felt so happy and I was like really craving for it, and it felt so good. And then when I woke up, I realized that it's one of those few moments in my life where really my unconscious was trying to tell me something, and basically it was like the inner child trying to express itself and say like, dude, like you've been way too harsh on yourself. You should also take it a bit easier. Because as a matter of fact, I was becoming a workaholic. So I went from chronic procrastinator to workaholism. And so that's when I realized that, okay, everything I thought I knew about productivity actually was wrong, because it's not about working hard.
So I don't know if you know Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill, the actor of The Witcher, is a well-known gamer.
Okay.
This guy is a well-known gamer. Like he said all the time, like, I love playing games. This is what I play, and so on and so on. So, I mean, you can be successful in playing games. That is not a problem. And I think not depriving you of freedom is really important. But there is also time, and I had the time recently where you have to finish something that is important, and you have to focus only on that for a period of time.
Absolutely.
And it's like, that's balance of, no, it's not like you want to overwork or you want to be a workaholic, but there is time where you need to focus on some stuff for a period of time. And I think that's also what is important, is to be able to understand, as you said, you don't want to lose what you're trying to achieve, which is freedom.
That's why for me, so I use this concept, I call it deep play. So it's kind of my pun on deep work, which is from an American author, Cal Newport, which is basically blocking certain periods of time for uninterrupted work without any distraction. And so my twist on this is deep play being blocking periods of time for play, just, non-productive, relaxing activities without interruption, without thinking or spending time working. And deep play is so powerful. It's such a simple hack, but it's really a core pillar of my method, because you are making the effort that you say, okay, maybe at 7 p.m., from 7 to 9 p.m., this is my deep play time. I'm going to, catch up on that book or play some games or whatever. You commit to it. And therefore, because it's a commitment, it forces you to use your time during your work time, your workday more efficiently, and remove distractions, remove interruptions, so that you really get your work done. And that's actually it's a carrot approach instead of a stick approach, but that also forces you to delay gratification now, because sure, you feel like doing something else right now, you feel like browsing a little bit on social media, but no, you know that at the time you set, you would have to finish your work, so you better delay gratification now so that you can enjoy it later. So that I agree with you, that's very important to delay the gratification.
Yeah, that's I don't remember where I saw that, but there was this quote from someone about that, which is the more, like, there is this Pomodoro Technique, 20-40. It's great for some people. I don't really like it. I also have ADHD, so I have this ability to have really deep focus in certain things at some time, and sometimes I'm not. And so one of the things that I've seen and read that was really interesting on that is, when you're trying to achieve something, you can, carve a block of time and try to do it. But sometimes your mind is not there too. You can't focus. then one of the things that I've learned is you need to step out. Just step out, walk. Don't do anything. That's the thing. If people start doing everything, then they switch to something else, and then they lose the momentum and all of that. And I think what you're saying is like deep plays. The important part is to be deep into what you're doing.
Correct.
So it's having this momentum. So just walk 5-10 minutes, get fresh air, come back, and focus on what you're doing. And I have been guilty of overwork or a lot of multitasking. I'm a heavy multitasker, but the truth is only 2% of the population is able to do multitasking.
Yes, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work for most people. It's like it's really difficult. For me, it's kind of depending on what I'm doing.
Actually, one of the most important thing to know about productivity is that productivity is a personal thing. And so what may work for one person may not necessarily work for another. You mentioned one of the most famous productivity technique, which is the Pomodoro Technique. I personally hate it. It doesn't work. It also doesn't work well for me because I need some time to get into flow state. That's something I really enjoy doing. And so if I stop after 25 minutes, that's going to interrupt my flow. That's not a very good use of my time. Also, I have no idea what to do if my break is supposed to be 5 minutes. I don't know what to do in just 5-minute breaks. So for me, that doesn't work. But for a lot of people, it seems to work very well because that kind of reduces the pressure. It's a good way to get started because it's less overwhelming to just say, I'm going to do it for 25 minutes. So voilà, it really depends on from one person to another. So productivity is a super personal thing. An important part of my job as a productivity coach is actually I use certain frameworks, and there are things like I mentioned, working smart, playing hard, being heroic. Being heroic, by the way, meaning getting out of your comfort zone, having the courage really to get out of your comfort zone, because actually this is one of I believe, the biggest productivity hack is, you can be working smart, be super efficient, you can be playing hard and, enjoying life. But if you, at some point, never get out of your comfort zone, never take any risk, you will not achieve your goal. So being heroic is a very, very important part of the equation. So I use this framework, but then my job is really to figure out on a week-by-week basis, doing one-on-one coaching, debriefing with my productive heroes, actually what worked very well for them in their productivity. And so what we do is we build this kind of personal database of SOPs and techniques and mindsets that are really working well for them to get them at their peak performance. And for what works for one person may not work for another one. Like I'll give an extreme example is, for example, one of my productive heroes. He's now a very successful music producer. So for him, what works very well is to go to bed around 2 or 3 in the morning, because actually he's very creative and very productive in the evening hours, in the night hours. And that's where he loves to do his work, when everything is quiet and he's got this kind of good mindset. So it would be counterproductive for me to try to force any preconceived idea that waking up early is the way. No, that would be counterproductive. So for him, that's what works very well. For others, no, it's better for them because of their lifestyle or whatever, or their schedule, to actually wake up earlier so they can reclaim some freedom for them in the morning before getting to work. So yeah, productivity is very, very personal, and you do need to customize it. Absolutely. Yeah, that's super important.
Okay. One last question, which is always my favorite one at the end.
Yeah.
Is if you have one technique to gain freedom, being financial, being time, being location, whatever it is, one technique that you would give today to someone to start the journey of freedom, what would it be?
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. So Yeah, as cheesy as it sounds, but I have to, like this is really what I preach and what I practice, and it has worked for me and all of my productive heroes. The one technique I would say is being heroic. And so how do you put that in practice? One of my favorite ways is writing down on a sheet of paper what are the things that you've been procrastinating on for the longest time. And so it's easy, but I mean it's easy to do, but it's maybe very uncomfortable to actually write it down, because you have to face reality. It's like yeah, I said 20 years ago I really want to write a book. Okay, all right, let me write this down. Oh, I said I want to say I want to have this talk with my boss and I want to quit this company. I want to propose to this lady or whatever, and you write down those things. And then what I like to do is rate them from on the heroic scale from 1 to 10. How much courage does it take you to actually achieve that? So 1 being, it's actually not that hard. It's pretty easy. 10 being, oh my God, I need a ton of courage. The ones that are 10, focus on them and take action. Those are the high leverage actions. Usually it's a very simple compass, to use courage and fear as an indicator that will tell you that actually, if you do take action on that, you will 100% achieve freedom.
Like the technique. I will definitely try it for myself. Awesome. That's an interesting way to do. And where can we find you? What have you on the boiler right now that would be interesting for them to try?
Oh, Vivien, I'm glad you asked this question, because I've got something really, really, really cool already available now. Basically, it's a mini intensive 7 days productivity coaching program called the Call to Adventure. So this Call to Adventure is for 7 days. There'll be 2 one-on-one coaching sessions. There will be a productivity plan that will be written for the coachee. There will be session notes provided. There will be ongoing support throughout the whole week. There will be specific resource that will be, again, customized and tailored, provided to the coachee. And the very, very good news I have for your listeners is that actually I'm giving away 10 free of those Call to Adventure to 10 of your listeners. Wow. They will have to simply go into the website that I'll provide you, but it's beheroicnow.com. So beheroicnow.com. And whenever they...
Hey, as we come to the end of our time together today, I want to thank you for joining in from the bottom of my heart. And I also want to remind you that you're not walking this path alone. I am Vivien Roggero, and I'm inviting you to join our community by subscribing to the One Freedom Formula podcast. Every click, share, and comment weave us closer together. So be part of this family. Share your journey in the comment and let us grow together. Until we meet again, continue to seek, learn, and connect.
Have to check out, instead of paying the $750 for this coaching experience, they just have to write Vivien as the coupon code, and they will get it for free. Now, it's a time-sensitive offer. The thing is, I reward action takers. This is what, my philosophy is all about. It's taking action and being proactive. So do not procrastinate on that. There's only 10 spots available. This is very valuable. So head to beheroicnow.com.
Sorry, there are only 9 available.
All right. It's going fast.
Going fast.
Yeah.
No, but thank you for that. I'm sure this will be appreciated. I mean, procrastination and one of the things that you want to control and understand if you want freedom. So thank you for that, Petrus.
So true.
It was a pleasure to have you today with me.
Likewise, and thank you so much for the invite.
As always. Cheers, everyone.